President Obama getting a taste of the summer doldrums and then some. His poll numbers really going down, staying down. Take a look at the latest Real Clear Politics polling average. This is an average, mind you. It finds 46% say the president is doing a good job. Nearly 49% say he is not. Let's bring in our political insiders. John LeBoutillier, former Republican congressman for New York. Pat Caddell, Fox News contributor, former pollster for President Jimmy Carter. Doug Schoen, also a Fox News contributor and a former pollster for Bill Clinton. All right, so he's underwater and going in the wrong direction. But if you look at a couple of the categories, the millennials, kids under 30, 17 points he has lost among those folks.
True, yeah.
In independents, he's taken a beating.
Well, two things going on. I think with millennials, combination of the economy and particularly the NSA scandal has really hurt them. And I think with independents, they tend to be performance oriented. And if you look this week, Gregg, at what happened at the G8, what happened with President Putin, and now this week, I mean today, with Mr. Snowden going to Moscow and apparently heading to Ecuador, all the while Syria being effectively under the control of the Russians. We are losing and losing big internationally. We're weakening at home. Bottom line, no surprise, the poll figures you cite.
Do people feel as though, Pat, this is a president who doesn't really lead and may not have the skills of leadership?
I think leadership has been a problem for him on these issues. The issues he talks about, 8% think they're important: immigration, gun control, whatever. But you know what? My whole theme of all this is a contempt for the American people. He's going to Africa, spending $100 million, according to the Post.
Right.
The White House tours are closed. We have Mr. Mueller was testifying the IRS. You know, he didn't even know who was investigating. Washington, there's just this attitude of contempt. The $70 million being paid to bonuses, you may call it hush money, by the new acting director of the IRS. Contempt for everyone.
Yeah. John, with all of these scandals that the president is knee deep in, I mean, is he already approaching lame duck status?
He's approaching it. He's weakening. He's got less power politically because of it. But here we're talking about the deterioration of the Obama presidency. Where is the Republican alternative to this thing? This past week, did we hear a word from them about NSA, IRS, Benghazi? No. They spent their time on the floor debating a late-term abortion bill. It did pass the House. It will not even be brought up in the Senate. They knew it wouldn't be brought up. So they spent their energy on that to assuage their base instead of capitalizing on the president's weakness. If it was reversed, if a Republican president was in trouble, none of us believe that a Democratic Congress would let him off the hook this way.
You know, and it's not just here in America. I mean, he goes over and gives a big speech in Berlin that proves out not to be big at all. The crowd wasn't very big, and it was an anemic crowd. The speech was, according to critics, delivered very, very poorly. And Doug, you know, there appeared to be either apathy or disdain or disinterest among the people.
Well, we have the specter of the president talking about the need to eliminate nuclear weapons when the Russians and the Chinese are arming, and certainly the Russians are upgrading their nuclear weapons. He goes to Northern Ireland and sort of says, we need a model in Syria like Northern Ireland. Gregg, it doesn't play overseas. It doesn't play at home. This is a presidency that is close to lame duck status.
And when it comes to Syria, for example, I mean, you see the president and Putin sitting together next to each other, and it's kind of an awful picture in which two people are definitely not communicating. So much, Pat, for the president's desire to reset relations. But, you know, is Putin eating his lunch over Syria?
It just says contempt. That the body language of Putin's contempt for Obama. He's winning in Syria. Obama is losing, and Obama's saying, "Well, we're going to get together. We'll have a conference." And Putin's sitting there going, "No, I won't."
Why would I do that?
And then he's saying, "Oh, we're going to cut nuclear weapons." And Putin's going, "Oh no, I'm increasing mine, you fool."
Yeah.
You know, it's like it is. All of that hurts.
All right, let me talk about the IRS. I want to jump to the IRS. We got a couple of polls, John. I want to get your reaction on this. Rasmussen poll. Decision by the IRS to target conservatives. 70% think it came from Washington. They're not buying this business about, a couple of low-level folks in Cincinnati. And then when you ask who in Washington, look at these numbers. 41% from the White House, 29% from the D.C. office of the IRS. People are smarter than we think.
They're
right?
way ahead. This is why it kills me that the Republicans aren't investigating this thing more aggressively and driving this thing right up into the White House to find out the things we've talked about.
Is it Boehner that doesn't want to? I mean, what is the deal?
I can't speak for him, but it doesn't seem that he's that eager. Why aren't there select committees being appointed and already at work on the IRS thing and Benghazi? The Benghazi one has been called for by a majority of the Republican conference, and he still won't do it.
There's another one I want to put
Sure.
up, small business fear of the IRS. I mean, fear of the IRS has always been pervasive, but look at these numbers.
Well, the numbers are all pervasive with 61% concerned. They speak to a larger issue that Pat and I and John have been talking about, which is the fear the American people have. There's the IRS, there's intrusion through the NSA, there's journalists like James Rosen being investigated unfairly. Bottom line, in America, we have traditional liberties and freedom. They're being eroded.
And Sergeant Schultz goes up to Capitol Hill, a.k.a. FBI Director Mueller, and I know nothing, I see nothing, I hear nothing. He doesn't even know who he appointed to investigate.
Because they're not serious. It's like the collusion when the NSA hearing, when the FBI guy and the justice guy say, "Oh, I'll buy you a beer. I owe you a beer for that one." It's all about how we're fooling the country because we don't care about it. Part of the Republican problem is that, look, you have 2/3 of Americans who believe in multiple polls that the government's a direct threat to their freedom. They're not only lost trust, they're afraid of the government.
Well, it makes matters worse, John, when the president's new appointee to clean up the IRS announces $70 million in bonuses.
Yeah. No, it's all part of the same thing. But here's a big picture thought for us. Conservatives, not Republicans, conservatives for decades have warned against the power of a large federal government out of control. Here we have it. We have a re-elected president who doesn't have to run again, running amok in the IRS, the EPA, the NSA, covering up Benghazi. God knows what else we're going to find out about other scandals. And Republicans, Pat has pointed this out, they're part of the problem.
We'll
they
put
are
up the
part
Gallup
of the
poll if we can.
political class.
Because, John, look at this. The image of Republicans is at an historical low, according to Gallup. Look at that.
Right. Do you hear any Republicans talking about what we just talked about, that the government is the enemy of the people?
The problem is, John, when you have a party that's leadership is part of the Washington elite, the junior government party, then you have a problem because the messages that people want to hear, they're not getting.
All right, got to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about this Massachusetts special election. It's on Tuesday for a U.S. Senate seat. The race pits Republican Gabriel Gomez against Democrat Edward Markey, a longtime congressman. I mean long. The state has traditionally been a safe bet for the Democrats, of course, but Gomez is staking a middle ground that could prove rather popular.
I believe in gay marriage. I'm for the immigration reform bill. I also think that we need to have more, I'm a green Republican. I believe that there's global warming and that humans have had something to do with that. I also firmly believe that we need to have this expanded background check, the Toomey Manchin bill. I'm ashamed that only 4 Republicans voted for this bill, and I think the NRA is completely wrong on this bill. There's a lot of areas that I don't agree with the Republican Party on.
Let's bring them back in. John LeBoutillier, Pat Caddell, and Doug Schoen. So, Doug, you know, I mean, you can't go anywhere in Massachusetts if you're a Republican unless you're at least a moderate, if not a liberal Republican.
Right. And Gomez certainly sounds like as liberal a Republican as you're going to get today. The problem is he's trailing in the Real Clear Politics averages by slightly more than 10 points. He hasn't gotten the support from the national Republicans that Scott Brown got when he beat Martha Coakley. Bottom line, I think this will be a Democratic victory. Not so much the Democrats are strong, they've closed ranks. The Republicans just don't
there's
have
the
it.
number. He's down by about 11. And Scott Brown, at this point in time in his campaign, was trending upward and very close, wasn't he?
Basically, he was basically even. But here, the point that Doug's making that's important. We saw that soundbite. Gomez is talking about why he's not a typical Republican.
Right.
What he's not doing is mounting a campaign against Markey that says this is what's wrong. This is a political class problem, which he should be doing. Like that poll we saw where. Remember, those were businessmen who had 100 employees or less. 61% say, I'm afraid that if I talk politics, I will be prosecuted by the IRS. This kind of fear, this kind of issue, that's what he should be on the offensive. So he has no message.
You know, the interesting thing is there may be voter apathy here. It's a summertime special election, John.
Well, that's the best thing for Gomez, I'm afraid. After watching that clip, compared to Scott Brown in 2010, who for that moment was a dynamite political candidate,
right,
this fella is not that good. On paper, he seems great. Navy SEAL, successful businessman, Hispanic American. No message, and he's rather lackluster. Scott Brown had some real juice in 2010, but most people will not know on Tuesday there's an election, and maybe there'll be a skewed turnout. It does happen. That's the best chance I think Gomez has.
Ed Markey is a career politician. I mean, he was a lawyer for 5 years, which is a nanosecond. He also
was in the State House of Representatives.
Yeah, he was in the State House and the U.S. House of. I mean, he is a long-time career politician. He's not exactly Mr. Excitement.
No, he isn't, and the Democrats know that. The mistake they made with Martha Coakley in 2010 was they didn't rally behind her quickly enough. There's been no limit of money, independent
There's Joe
expenditures.
Biden right there.
Joe Biden. Bottom line, the party apparatus is behind Ed Markey. The state is 2 or 3 to 1 Democratic. It has not elected a Republican other than Scott Brown.
If it gets
for
real
a long
close,
time.
Pat, I mean, if Gomez is within 1 or 2 points yet still loses, I mean, Republicans can take away from that great hope for the midterms.
Well, they can. They also should be shooting themselves because they haven't supported him or helped him the way they did some of them. Because they are still a party in retreat, a mentality of we lose. This is what the Democrats capping on. As you said, they have a very weak candidate who has very high negatives. Been in Congress 37 years. With Joe Biden, between the two of them, have been there about 100 years. And you know what? And so they have this attractive candidate, but they haven't supported it.
Also, the Republican Party around the country doesn't like what Gomez just said on there. He's against everything they're for.
And he has no message. There's no Gomez message.
Doug, Schoen, Pat Caddell, John LeBoutillier, thanks so much. You can catch our political insiders every Monday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, live.foxnews.com. They'll be back here, of course, next Sunday. Follow them on Twitter, at FN Insiders. Heather?